When I announced in the community post that I would be the main subject of the next video, everyone expected that this video would be me talking about my show, Last Object Standing. Boy, I'm about to disappoint my audience. No, I will not be talking about my show. Yet, as I've decided to present to you, Be Awesome One's Not So Awesome Trilogy. After my last video about Fries, there were some comments saying that I was a little too harsh towards him. And to be fair, I do agree. He was young and probably matured at this point. However, I don't think it excused some of the stuff that he did. Regardless, I think it would be fair for me to make a series of videos talking about my blunders I did in this community. And there are some stupid stuff I have said and done. This video will be split into 3 different parts. Final part is going to be my review of my own show, Last Object Standing. Second part is going to be about shows I was working on and help with. Trust me, there are some bad stuff I was working on. But first, let's start something I have been known in this community at the start. My reviews. I was doing a lot of DeviantArt reviews in the past, which got pretty popular in this community. Sadly, I nuked this page and I cannot show you any of the stuff I made. Regardless, I have said and done some stupid things. It ranged from meh, whatever kind of bad to affecting an actual show kind of bad. I present to you my old awful takes on object shows. Let's begin with the oldest one. Back in the day, I was against object shows that were story based and not competition based. My initial thought was, if it's not broken, don't fix it. To which I now respond with, if it's not broken, then it's probably worn out. My reasoning behind not liking story-based object shows was due to the fact that back in the days, these shows weren't that good. I'll give you some examples. First show that tried to diversify from normal formula was Objects at War. However, no one liked it, as it focused on one of the most despised characters of all time. More on that in my Objects at War video. Wink wink. Other notable offenders were Snack Time, the 1-minute pilot that focused on characters swearing and calling each other sluts.
Hey, bitch. Hey, slut. What are you doing? Not much. I'm just hanging out with this blue dildo over here.
Well, I just got off the phone with Bridget.
Really?
Yeah, and she told me that you fucked Boingo last night, you fucking
mate! At first it was funny, but then people grew up and realized that it's just characters saying fuck. The Battery Show. Look at the state of this. Not only this show was poorly written.
Guys, I know it's not an owl, cut it out! I'm gonna try popcorn kernels. Cut it out!
Come on, why are they waking up a character that's already awake? But this show can also cause a seizure.
Dance, dance, dance like you're having a seizure. Move like you're having a fit.
And don't get me started with animation area shows. Looking back at it, you could probably understand why I wasn't a big fan of story-based shows. However, after I returned, I found out that there are many plot-driven shows that are actually good, such as Nightly Manor, Modern Objects, and the magnum opus itself, Tiny Taco Tales. Oh yeah, and there's one as well. While I had my reasons, this take did not age well, and I hope this community will open up the boundaries even more and could come up with more creative ideas for their shows. And seriously, go watch Tiny Taco Tales. I feel stupid about this one. Not because of the take itself, but because of how I got provoked into this. I remember some user on DeviantArt making a lot of journals and images, rating all the shows and putting Battle for Dream Island again as the worst object shows. And considering what shows were released during that time period, this statement was truly wrong. Regardless, I got baited and a little upset, so I have used my popularity to praise BFDIA as the best object show of all time. Good God, what was I thinking? Look, BFDIA is a good show, but it does have a fair share of problems, mostly due to filler scenes. While some of them are being impressively animated, it does drag too long. It is nowhere near as bad of a show as this guy was making up to be, but saying it's the best thing since sliced bread is also as dumb. Well, there's nothing much I can say about this one, so let's move on to the next bit. While previous one was me trying to start the bandwagon, this one is me joining a certain bandwagon. In early years, Retro was working on the second time on his object show, Next Top Thingy. In one of his posts on DeviantArt, he made a post revealing a new assets that he wanted to use for the show. Sadly, Retro nuked his DeviantArt as well, so I can't show you those assets. All I can say, Retro made new limbs, eyes and mouth that looked really blocky. People felt really mixed about this. However, one of the biggest critics of these assets change was Adam Katz, the creator of Inanimate Insanity. Retro and Adam were always butting heads against each other. Both were criticizing their shows and arguing over what is right and what is wrong. Anyway, Adam was critical of the assets and said that there was really no reason of making new assets as the BFDI assets are perfect. Again, Adam also nuked his DeviantArt, so I can't show you the comments. But regardless, Retro reverted back to normal assets, mostly due to me also not being a big fan of them, as it was influenced by number 2 of this community. Unlike the first take, where all the story-driven stuff were bad, there were a few handmade assets that were actually good, such as in Brawl of the Objects and Challenge to Win. But there were also some really bad ones, like in Battle for Idle Sleep and TOM. Which one? I don't know, all of them. Now we have even more shows with more asset styles, and majority of the time, it looks good. Even Adam decided to use different assets for his show, despite being critical towards them at the beginning. Regardless, I shouldn't blindly listen to what top creators think, cause even they can be wrong sometimes. But still, those retro assets were bad. Everyone has at least one original character in this community. For majority of the time, they were good. But then I saw this and completely ruined my mood. 2014 and 5th had a lot of what I like to call hairy balls, which are balls with a bit of hair on the top, human name such as Steven, and bland personality. This really irked me back then due to how unoriginal they were, and even made a comic about them, as well as planning to be a villain in episode 3 of Last Object Standing. While I still think these OCs are bad, I shouldn't get so worked up about this. Creators of those balls were not actually harming anyone and seems to be friendly with everyone. This was, once again, my overreaction. That resulted in more people disliking something that they shouldn't. What I would say though, is that I wish they could at least try to separate these characters personality wise, so they wouldn't look like reskins of one another. Shipping happens in every community, whether it is Total Drama community, Sonic community, and even Object Show community. Let's just say, I'm not a big fan of shipping, as it's not my thing. But back then, I was a real dick about it and came out as a massive hypocrite in the end. I was really against shipping due to not really getting why objects would make love with each other. And I'm not talking about like fetish fan art, I still think these are awful. I talk about just characters kissing, holding hands, and going on a date. That kind of petty stuff. What's made it worse is when I published the episode 1 of Last Object Standing, we had Glowstick and Pineapple being in a relationship, making my point about shipping a bit hypocritical. While shipping is still not my thing, I am not that fussed about it anymore. Despite that, my initial reaction to some of the ships, especially made from fans of my show, was disgusting and out of hand. I even lashed out at the people making my characters trans, like, what the fuck was wrong with me? To whoever made my shipping fanart, LGBT fanart, and whoever I ever insulted, I would like to apologize for acting so immature about it. And while this might have sounded bad, it still doesn't hold a candle to arguably my worst take I have ever done. It was so bad that it impacted not only a show, but a friendship as well. If you ever wonder why Webs was no longer working for Last Object Standing, then you are in luck, because I'm about to give you an explanation. When I was younger, I liked EE at the start, but I thought that the series got a little bit worse with each passing episode, probably due to the writing or the usage of blood. I still watched the shows and hoped for some improvements, and then episode 7, Chow Down, came out. And I thought it was the worst episode yet. And if you guessed that was because of the deleted scene, then you were right. I wasn't really happy about this episode. In fact, I was furious. Which is why I vented my frustration on DeviantArt, because back then I used this site like Twitter. And unfortunately, due to my influence, many other creators were also negative towards this scene, which resulted in Webs having to re-upload this episode without that scene in it.
You might not know this, but by the time EE7 rolled around, no one liked Exfil Entities. Like, they really hated it. Season 1 was terrible, early Season 2 didn't make any sense, Episode 4 and 5 were boring and failed attempts at character development, and Episode 6 fell super flat. So at this point, I'd just given up on caring about what everyone thought about my show, and Episode 7 was basically this big protest where I was like, you hate it so much, well I'm gonna make it even worse. So that included Scene 2 of Episode 7, in which Chocolate Bar is a homophobic religious bigot, and all the characters one by one come out as LGBT. This is canon, by the way. They've always been queer, they're all queer, except Chocolate Bar is not homophobic, because it's just weird to have a canonically homophobic character. Like, why would I do that? So, and also, the scene is like super anti-religion, anti-religious people, which I obviously don't agree with anymore. I was just an edgy 14-year-old who happened to have a subscriber base that I was able to share these edgy opinions with, which was a terrible idea, because when the episode originally came out, a bunch of friend groups basically coalesced to dislike bot and dislike spam the whole episode, and in less than an hour, there was 150 dislikes on the video, which like broke my heart. So I just deleted the whole thing, cut the scene out, re-uploaded it, and pretended like nothing ever happened.
To say that I feel bad about it, it's an understatement of the fucking century. There are so many countries that are strictly against LGBT community, and sadly, I was born and raised in one of them, which explains why I was so close-minded about the topic. Later on, I moved into Scotland, a country that is not as religious and also very friendly towards the LGBT community. And after meeting many people from this community, not just virtually, but in real life as well, it made me realize how much of a piece of shit I was back then. I don't think anyone should be judged based on their sexuality, and I unfortunately did that, which I feel ashamed of. Understandably, Webbs was upset at me, we have cut our ties, and we have never spoken to each other ever again. Until last month, when I have messaged him back and apologized for my actions, and now, we are cool with each other. We were both young and we both did stupid things, and all we can do is learn from it, which I think this sums up this video pretty well. A while ago, the deleted scene has been re-uploaded on Webbs' channel, so if you want to see it fully, you can go check it out here. And while you're on this channel, watch his shorts as well, because they're actually pretty funny. But regardless, I would like once again apologize for having such a bigoted mindset back then, and I will do everything to not be like this anymore. On this happy note, I will end the first part of this trilogy, and I will return with the next part when it's done.